Everyone reaches a point at some point in their life where they feel like they can't take it anymore. They can't take their pain threshold any further. They reach a point of intolerance, disgust, disappointment, anger. And these circumstances, these difficult times, are essentially an internal winter which we all go through. You may have missed a springtime somewhere, right? And winter is extra harsh, or you could be someone who, by dwelling upon the severity of the personal winter, you end up, unfortunately, making your winter even more difficult to endure. That's what dwelling does, right? It just expands suffering and makes it even more difficult to deal with. We've all been there. I've been there personally too. And here's why I'm going to share my personal methods that I use to find strength in difficult times. And I hope anyone who's watching can share their methods too, because we all have different unique ways of dealing with pain and suffering and struggle. But guess what? When you start sharing your methods with other people, you start to become a light to other people. Hopefully you can help someone deal with their own struggle. Potentially you could provide someone with an insight and a strategy that they've never been exposed to before. Now, you become part of the solution instead of fueling a problem. That's the magnitude of sharing. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Acknowledge and honor how you feel currently with specificity and love. It's okay to not be okay. It's not a weakness. I can't stress that enough on its own. It's okay to be angry, to experience friction, tension, tears, whatever the emotional charge is. Accept exactly where you are right now and specifically externalize the emotion that you're experiencing currently. The more specific you are, the greater you'll be able to break it down, unpack it, externalize it. And what I mean by externalize it is you'll be able to look the emotion specifically in the face, almost like it's sitting in the palm of your hands. Can you specifically externalize the planet that you're on emotionally? Where is your emotional home right now? Are you feeling a sense of hurt, a sense of loss, a sense of pain, a sense of adversity? Where are you feeling it? What vocabulary are you using? Meet yourself exactly where you are, but make sure it's not worse than where you honestly are. I'll say that again. Meet yourself exactly where you are, but not worse than where you honestly are. Now, specify what pain you are experiencing. That pain will make you pay attention. That's the gift of pain. You might not be where you want to be, but you are exactly where you need to be. Pain will give you a message through your emotions, informing you that you're where you need to be right now. Because you need to receive this message. You must receive a call to action. But going back a step for a moment, it's okay to be not okay. And remember that there's strength and there's courage in admitting your weaknesses, especially on that level of admitting it to yourself. There's beauty, there's strength, and there's courage in the self-honesty. Okay, moving on. Remember that winter is not permanent. Your pain is not permanent, only your soul is permanent. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to suffer, understanding that suffering is a prerequisite to life on this planet. But understand simultaneously that pain is never permanent. Gradually, directing your awareness and your consciousness to this profound truth is the beginning of something new for you. Unfortunately, this may be a chilling, frigid, horrific winter that you're going through right now internally. It may look pessimistic. It may look like a cynical winter. But remember, the seasons change. Remember, there's a circle of life when it comes to both our external world and our internal world. Winters can be harsh, but winters aren't permanent. The snow that covers the soil, soon that same soil will give way to new life. It's easy to forget that springtime will come inevitably, but we can lose ourselves in the sorrow of winter. Just remember, there are cycles, there are patterns. This profound truth will begin to set you free to some degree. Moving on, take responsibility for your feelings. Own your feelings. Now that you understand that it's okay to not be okay, but also simultaneously remember that pain is not permanent. Now it's time to own your feelings. Honor where they came from and why they exist. I say own your feelings because you are the owner of your feelings. You cannot solely lay blame on somebody else for how you feel. When you lay blame and then you find someone else to justify you laying blame devastatingly, that only ends in resentment. That's why laying blame is kind of like a cancer track. And take responsibility because there's a powerful message masquerading itself inside that emotion. You don't want to miss that message. You don't want to miss it by laying blame and finding other people to assist you in playing the blame game or justifying your sadness, for that matter. And you don't want someone to justify that it's okay to be sad, and then you just stay there. You don't want to stay there. It's okay to not feel okay, but it's not okay to stay there. That's where responsibility comes in. Remembering that there's a powerful message and there's a call to action inside that emotion. You can only realize that call to action inside that emotion when you take ownership of your feelings. It would be such a shame, right, to experience that pain, but you never pay attention to the message. We all have belief systems, meaning we all have a set of rules inside our brain around how a person should behave according to our expectations. These expectations are the rules that we've kind of created and made up inside our own psyche. But if these expectations are violated either by ourselves or by other people, then we feel a certain way internally. If someone else violates those expectations, you feel anger. If you violate your own standards, then you feel guilt, right? But now hopefully you're specific about how you feel. You can start knowing how to take charge of what this emotion really means. You start to unpack it. For example, if it's loneliness, it's almost self-explanatory, right? I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling isolated. I'm not feeling connected. The action step, straight from the bat, is, okay, the emotional message here is I must be proactive. about seeking love and connection. If you feel unloved, the action step is to be more loving. If it's anger, the action step could be, let's find a healthy physical outlet for this anger, such as a gym or a sport. Let's not take this out on somebody else, or perhaps your rules around how a person should behave are unreasonable, and those rules could do with some alterations potentially. If it's guilt, you violated your own standards. Extract the lesson from what you did that made you feel this level of shame or guilt. And if you're overwhelmed, if that's your vocabulary, right? Maybe you use this word overwhelmed. It means too many things are going on at once. Prioritize. Your action step here is to prioritize one thing, do that one thing, and start to make progress towards lightening the burden. Start with one thing. If it's anxiety that you're experiencing, anxiety wants you to organize yourself for the chaos that's about to ensue. So take responsibility for your emotions, and that responsibility begins with finding the proactive action steps inside the feelings. Instead of playing the blame game, seek guidance instead of seeking blame. Once you've figured out what your call to action is, what I personally usually do when I'm finding strength in difficult times is I usually like to seek guidance from a time that I've broken through a similar state of suffering that I'm currently experiencing. I'm seeking guidance and extracting wisdom from a previous time that I've already broken through. What did I do? Did I change my breath? Did I move my body differently? Did I acquire a new habit? Did I go on any specific adventure to assist my healing? Or I would seek guidance from a mentor that has been through a similar ordeal of suffering. Ideally, I would find a physical mentor, a mentor that's in the flesh, a mentor that I can hold myself accountable to. But if this is not available at the time for whatever reason, or you're still feeling vulnerable about how you're feeling, or you're not in the right headspace yet to share it or speak about it, I would start reading about somebody who's been through a lot worse than what you are currently going through right now. There are many people in our history who've been through unspeakable levels of suffering. There are many moments and people in our history where someone has put their soul on the line, so to speak, where someone used all of their human spirit to their maximum potential in order to break through a difficult period in our time. Multiple moments when someone who used all of their inner resources and actually found opportunity in their difficulty. We take people like Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Winston Churchill. These are a few people off the top of my head that just had an unbreakable, unshakable spirit in their own ways, and they had a higher mission that got them through the difficult times. I like to read about what they were doing. How were they breathing? What were they saying to themselves? What was their inner dialogue like? How specifically did they structure themselves to find strength in extremely difficult times? What was their why, right? What was their mission that allowed them to endure unimaginable amounts of pain and made continuous breakthroughs one after the other. We appreciate the extraordinary people who came before us, and we swap our anger, our inner battles, our inner struggles, our inner dialogue. We substitute it into the dialogue of great people before us, and we substitute our inner struggle with curiosity. Curiosity is where we will find guidance and critical insights, because we faced challenges as humanity and we've made it through before. And that's something that you will come to grips with as you delve into this strategy of seeking guidance from moments in history, seeking guidance from monumental men or women in our history. Change the story that you tell yourself. There's a Mexican proverb that goes, "They thought they buried us, but they didn't know that we were seeds." Powerful, powerful words, right? Imagine if this is your story. Instead of having the story that someone violated me, how about you become this metaphor of the seed? And when you take on this kind of story, this kind of metaphor, you start to rewire the way you look at disappointment. You start to take on this inner dialogue that actually this disappointment is here to serve me. This disappointment is here to cultivate growth within me so that I can reach new heights. The story you could tell yourself is, this thing, this struggle that I'm going through is here specifically to fuel a new level of strength, resilience, and personal power inside of me. This difficulty is here specifically to fuel new levels of health, love, and contribution that I didn't know was residing within me. Shift the meaning of your story into an empowering one. Substitute your inner dialogue into great people from the past, and you take on a whole new level of identity by shifting the story. Find an uplifting community that keeps you accountable to finding strength. This may probably will not be your natural friend circle or family, although it could be. But make sure that this is a place where you can grow in a new environment, ideally. And to reiterate a point I made earlier, this community group shouldn't be a place where you go to justify weak patterns or to lay any kind of blame. You can't tolerate this kind of behavior if you want to find the next level of strength you're craving for. You've already made some breakthroughs if you've made it this far, so you don't want to reverse all the inner work you've already done. I would consider this. Difficult times are great times to find great people, right? Difficult times are great times to find great people. We gravitate towards each other in difficult times because it almost becomes amplified, the fact that we're looking for unity and growth. So you could use this as an opportunity to find unity and growth. Find an uplifting and an empowering community that facilitates togetherness, maturation, thriving, and strength. And you also are able to escape your own kind of solipsism and your own ego at the same time. finally, be the light you want to see. Now you can be the light that you wish you had. Be the light that you want to see in the world. Once you serve, you are no longer tied to your own ego or to your own solipsistic kind of desires. You can now be that light as springtime approaches. You can be that light for somebody else who may go through a similar thing. You become a living example of how to reduce suffering in harsh times. You can't set a better example than that, right? You set an example of how to exist as a human, how to tackle life's ongoing suffering. And I want to end because I think this is really pertinent. I want to end with a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. because I think this is a beautiful and a poignant way to end these tips. So here we go. The road ahead will not be smooth. There will still be rocky places of frustration and meandering points of bewilderment. There will be inevitable obstacles, and there will be those moments when the buoyancy of hope will be transformed into the fatigue of despair. Our dreams will sometimes be shattered, and with tear-drenched eyes, our ethereal hopes blasted. But difficult and painful as it is, we must walk on in the days ahead with an audacious faith in the future. Let us realize that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Truth, crushed to earth, will rise again. I talk about truth and love because I know love is ultimately the only answer to all of mankind's problems. And I'm going to talk about it everywhere I go, for I have seen too much hate. So listening to those powerful, poignant words, how will you serve today? Let's be that strength for other people. And with that, I am going to leave you. Those are my tips to finding strength in difficult times. Hope they helped. Thank you so much, guys. If anything resonated with you, make sure you like, love, share, subscribe. I hope that you're able to find strength in difficult times. Don't let those times bog you down. Don't let them get you down. Find strength and then be that light, and then be that strength for other people. Take care, and as always, sending lots of love to you, my friend.